Meet the Bambu Lab P2S. On paper, just a mid-range upgrade, but after hundreds of hours of testing, I'm convinced that this isn't a P-series printer at all. This is the X1 Carbon reborn. This video is sponsored by PCBWay. The P2S is Bambu Lab's latest release and the third machine in their new generation lineup, following the H2D and the H2S. Those two flagships introduced some big innovations: servo-driven extruders, adaptive airflow, smarter AI monitoring, the kind of tech you'd normally expect to stay exclusive to high-end models. So when Bambu Lab announced a new P-series printer, the assumption was that it would be the budget option. Something stripped back, a modest step up from the P1S, which, if you remember, was basically a cut-down X1 Carbon with a small screen and push-button controls. The P1S was a good 3D printer, but let's face it, buying one was a compromise for when you couldn't afford an X1. And if that's what you're expecting here, you're in for a surprise. The P2S feels nothing like a compromise, and after all of my extensive testing, I can tell you that this machine actually feels like an upgrade on what was, up until a few months ago, Bambu Lab's flagship 3D printer, the X1 Carbon, which took it from an unknown manufacturer to a market leader. I'm not exaggerating either, the spec proves it. I will tell you why I think this printer is one of the best machines Bambu Lab have ever produced, but first, it's called the P2S, so let's briefly compare it to its predecessor. Before we dive in though, I just have to declare that Bambu Lab sent me this 3D printer, I didn't buy it. And I am a part of their affiliate scheme. What that means is, if you make a purchase from Bambu Lab after clicking one of my links, they recognise that my video helped you decide what to get with a small commission. Whilst it's not a lot, every little helps me to keep making these videos, and there's zero cost to you. That being said, Bambu Lab don't see this video before you do, and they have no say over the content of the video. Now, back to the P2S. The first upgrade over the P1S that most people will notice is the screen. The P1 printers had push-button controls and a text-only display that felt more like an Ender 3 or older Prusa model than anything else in the Bambu Lab range. Every Bambu Lab printer since then has had a slick touchscreen with high-tech graphics, and the P2S is no exception. It has a 5-inch second-generation touchscreen with smooth, innovative control that feels just like my H2 printers and allows you to control everything with ease. The P1S, as with the X1 printers, used a stepper extruder motor, whereas the P2S gets the same servo-driven DynaSense extruder motor from the H2 series. This gives it 8.5 kilograms of force and the ability to detect extrusion issues. The end result is smoother filament flow and reliability than the stepper-based extruders on earlier models. With the P1S, tuning was all pretty manual, but this is not the case with the P2S. Just like the H2 printers, it uses eddy-current auto calibration. This is all thanks to the servo extruder motor, which gives feedback about how the filament is extruding in real time, which allows for automatic adjustments in flow rate. This means that you don't have to run manual calibration prints or play around with flow multipliers in the slicer. Different spools, colours and brands of filament all behave differently. Normally you'd see over-extrusion on some and under-extrusion on others. The eddy current sensor compensates so layer lines are more even without you touching settings. The end result is that you get cleaner first layers, better dimensional accuracy, and basically the ability to just hit print as the machine comes out of the box. One thing that's become really clear with machines like the P2S is how quickly projects can scale up. When a desktop printer just isn't enough, that's where PCBWay comes in. They've got full-scale production capabilities, whether that's PCB prototyping and assembly, CNC machining for enclosures, or even injection moulding and sheet metal work if you're moving towards a final product. What I like is that you can start small with a one-off prototype and then scale to larger runs without switching suppliers. Their engineers actually review your files before production, so mistakes are caught early. And you can follow every step of the process in their online dashboard. So if you ever want to take your designs beyond the desktop, PCBWay is the partner to help make that leap. The camera on the P2S is another carryover from the H2s, with a 1080p live camera feed that also means much better quality time-lapse videos. As you can see, there are some big advancements here, but these upgrades also mean that the P2S leapfrogs over the X1C in pretty much every area. The servo motor eddy current system is an alternative to the X1C's headline LiDAR system and basically makes it obsolete. The LiDAR system would watch your first layer and check flow visibly, but eddy current measures the extruder's performance at the source, then corrects before the plastic even hits the bed, and it continues to do this throughout the whole print, not just on the first layer. The P2S, just like the H2 series, also gives an upgrade over all previous models when it comes to cooling. There's a big difference between blowing recirculated warm air over your print and drawing in much cooler outside air to use. One of my favourite features of the H2 printers is their ability to pull cool air into the print chamber so that you no longer need to leave the door or lid open when printing with PLA. It took me a minute to find out how it does it, but the P2S does something very similar, and it does it in a clever way that I really like. Instead of having an opening external door on the fresh air intake, the P2S uses a very discreet vent hidden inside the right-hand handhold for an intake for all that nice fresh air that's needed for cooling your extruded filament. The P2S filters the air that it recirculates, but unfortunately it does stop short of filtering the air that is vented to the outside, which is a shame. It has a mechanical flap that it opens and closes depending on whether you want to circulate warm or cool air, but at no point does it completely stop air from being vented outside. What this means is that if you wanted to stop nasty smells and potential VOCs from leaving your printer unfiltered, then you need to add some kind of external filtration. As I say, this is a shame, but with all of the other great spec that comes with P2S and the much lower pricing, I guess they had to draw the line somewhere. There also isn't a chamber heater as such on the P2S, but there is space for a future addition. At the moment, if you want to print with filaments like nylon that need a higher print chamber temperature, you need to preheat the bed to get things warm, and then the printer knows from print files to not pull in cool air while you're printing. I tested this out by setting the bed to its maximum temperature of 110 degrees, and after 30 minutes the chamber was up to 40 degrees, ready for more sensitive filaments. The carbon rods from the first generation of printers are gone on the P2S. Bambu Labs say that this is for easier maintenance, and I for one am pleased to see the back of them. Carbon fibre is not a good surface to run a bearing on, and while the printers with carbon rods have lasted well, these steel ones will last longer. What the P2S does retain from the P1S is the bed size. Well, actually it's slightly bigger in that it can use the full 256 by 256 millimeters for printing. With the older model, there was an area on the front corner that was used for cutting the filament, but this has now been moved to the back so that there's no restriction to using the full bed. What this also means is that you can use all of the 256 by 256 beds that are out there for printing, even if you won't be able to take full advantage from using the P2S specific new ones. And that advantage is, as part of the comprehensive AI monitoring features, the P2S, just like the H2 models, uses QR codes on the bed and nozzle to check that you have the same printer hardware setup that was selected in the slicer before printing. If you use an older bed without the QR code, then you don't get this extra safety net. The nozzles are also an upgrade over the P1S and the X1 printers. Gone are the old ones that needed tools when swapping, and in come the same quick release hotends from the H2s. These are super simple to change, and it's a system that works well. Unfortunately, the A1 nozzles can't be used, and I'm hoping that Bambu Lab now stick to this new type nozzle for the rest of the new generation of machines at least. I know the hardened steel nozzles last a long time, but the less spares people need to buy, the better. The P2S also has multi-filament prints firmly in mind, with full compatibility with the AMS and AMS2 Pro multi-filament systems, as well as the AMS HT. Just like with the H2s, this allows you to combine up to 24 different filaments in one print, if that's what you want to do. Of course, using the AMS2 or HT gives you the option of drying your filament in between prints, and both of these use clever vents to periodically expel damp air to speed up the drying process. One small frustration with this whole setup, which is the same across all of the printers that are compatible with the AMS units that have the drying function, is that you can't dry while printing with that AMS. This is because the heat that's used to dry the filament softens it a little, which can cause issues when it's then fed through the AMS motors. Printing with TPU is actually a bit easier with the P2S than even the H2 models. This is because the filament path is shorter than on the bigger machines, and there's a lot less to do to print with flexible filaments. All I did was use the TPU exit on my AMS HT and run a relatively short PTFE tube straight into the filament inlet on the back, and everything worked like it should. This route bypasses the inbuilt Y-splitter on the back and again just keeps that filament path a bit shorter. So, as I said earlier, I've put hundreds of hours of printing on this machine already. So what did I find? Well, what I didn't do was print a load of test prints first. My test procedure used to involve printing calibration models to see what the printer can and can't do before trying bigger and more complicated prints. However, we've now reached the stage where, especially with Bambu Lab printers, you should be able to just switch the printer on and print anything you like. So, after printing just a couple of models supplied, loaded on the printer, I set up a crazy 8-filament, 4-day long Majora's Mask print. This is one of the craziest things I've ever printed, and all of the different colours meant 2,771 filament changes. Now, unfortunately, I can't say that this print completed without issue. Around 30 hours in, I received a notification on my phone to say that the printer had paused as it had detected a fault. What had happened was that the prime tower had somehow released from the bed and had been shuffling around. The AI monitoring had done its job in stopping the print, but now I had a decision to make. Do I restart the print and scrap all of the filament I'd already used and purged, or did I try and rescue it? I decided I might as well try and see if I could somehow keep the print going. So, using some double-sided tape, I tried attaching the prime tower back in what was my best guess at the right place. As the last few layers had been messed up, I also added a few layers of tape to the top in the hope that the new filament would attach itself so the print could continue. It wasn't pretty, but the new filament did eventually take hold, and the print continued for a couple more days until I saw the next error. The AI again paused the print because it detected that the purged filament that was supposed to exit down the poop chute had backed up. Sure enough, when I checked in person, there was a whole heap of filament poop that needed clearing. This was a very simple job though, and as soon as I made some room, the print continued. Not long after that though, the prime tower fell over again, and the print was way too close to finishing for me to let it give up, so I had to try my same double-sided tape bodge again. As the tower was now so tall, it took a lot more effort to get it to stay still while the new filament took hold, so I actually stood there for about 20 minutes, holding the prime tower just to make sure it didn't cause the print to fail so close to the end. Everything did turn out okay in the end though, and the final prime tower is possibly more impressive than the print. These multi-filament, multi-day prints are very impressive, but I really struggle to justify the waste. You see, every single one of the 2,771 filament changes produced a couple of little poops. So even though the print used 427 grams and the prime tower used 179 grams of filament, there was a staggering 1,060 grams of filament wasted out the back of the printer. That's more than a complete roll of filament going in the bin from one print. As it's all PLA with no contamination from other filaments, at least it all went into my waste PLA bin, which is sitting there waiting for someone to invent a way to make use of it. Other than the prime tower releasing from this one print, the rest of my testing was all pretty uneventful. The only thing I did find was that with some non-Bambu Lab filaments, I did get quite a bit of fine stringing. However, this did also coincide with the weather changing quite dramatically here, so it's possible that my filament hasn't been handled in the best way, and it could be partly down to moisture in my filament. Bambu Lab have started including filament profiles for other manufacturers' filament, which is great to see, particularly as there have been accusations that they're pushing for a closed ecosystem where you can only use their filament. Adding an easier way for you to use products from other manufacturers hints at the fact that they don't plan to go down that road in the future. You do get some additional benefits if you use Bambu Lab's own filament though. Each spool has an RFID chip, which the AMS units read to get the filament information automatically, but the latest AMS units also have another trick. Through a combination of measuring how much filament they're feeding through with detecting the RFID chip on each spool rotation, they're able to calculate how much filament is left. This is a clever trick, and another one of the nice refinement details you find all over this printer. At one point, I did think I'd finally found a chink in the P2S's armour when these acorn decorations had a far from smooth surface finish, but it turned out that fuzzy skin setting was on. I feel like I'm not doing my job properly when I can't find a fault with the machine, but I really struggle to find much to complain about with the P2S. Everything it's supposed to do, it does. In fact, it seems to do almost too much. With better features than Bambu Lab's first generation flagship printer, the X1C, the P2S is a beast at mid-range pricing. I have no idea what's coming next other than the H2C that Bambu Lab announced very early, which will be with us before the end of the year. Maybe Bambu Lab will drop the X series of printer altogether. What I think is much more likely though is that within the next 6 months or so, we're going to see something pretty special in the second generation of the X series. The H series has bigger printing covered, and the P2S now has solid, reliable multi-filament printing covered. So what's left? I'd love to know what you think, so drop me a comment and let me know what you think Bambu Lab will or should do next. For now though, the P2S has given us some flagship printer features at mid-range pricing, and that can only be a good thing. If you've always wanted an X1C but couldn't justify the price, then the P2S just made that decision much easier. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.